Waves spoke of 1,000 tales of survival, tragedy and hope. The wind swept through the reeds, and they whispered to the sound of a new day. The birdsong carried through the trees, singing delicate notes of relief. Every few seconds, nature would take a moment to pause. The silence was still, full of reflection. And then I felt it. The spirit in this land is alive. Those that have walked this land before us sing songs through the waves, tell stories through the wind, and echo their bravery through the trees. I take a deep breath and acknowledge the ancestors that have wandered this landscape over thousands of years. My heart, like the waves, speaks of hope. Together, let us create stories of friendship, recognition, and strength. The spirit in this land is alive. I wrote that poem because I went down to the springs to just do what I said I did before. I stand at the edge of the sea and just think, and these words came to me, and it resonates with me because the city of Holdfast Bay is a really, really rich place in Kaurna culture. And in fact, the whole land is rich in Aboriginal culture, but visually, there are lots of things in the landscape that speak to the general public. One of them is the City of Holdfast Bay cultural map, which I use a lot of. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that map, but it's on the website, and it has all the place names along Seacliff to Brighton and Glenelg. It has some history, it has some plants, and it's a really it's a great overview of Kaurna culture today and of the past. And that particular resource has helped inform one of the resources that we've recently developed with Holdfast Bay. And that was based on the premise that now more than ever, we need nature. And we need nature because right as the bushfires had finished, most of our hearts were heavy. And as that tragedy started to sink in, the pandemic began. And as a society, I think it's important that we recognise and we ask ourselves, what have we done to cope? Where have we gone? Well, we're seeing the beaches, we're seeing the national parks, we're seeing them see more people than they've ever seen before. And they're going there because if I asked you if you've had a long day or something in your life happened where you needed to escape, or you needed to get some fresh air, or you needed some reflection, would you prefer to sit in a city on a bench where there's no one around, or would you rather sit where my daughter is sitting now? In this picture, of course, because she's in bed right now. But she's sitting, looking out over the ocean. And there's something calming about that. There's something calming about listening to the waves, about watching the clouds, about feeling the wind, about that salty smell about the sea. And our beaches along Holdfast Bay are so accessible. And you go down to Kingston and your backdrop is the cliffs, or you go down to the end of Shoreham Road and the dunes. If you're at the edge of the ocean there, it almost feels like an urban paradise because of how well those dunes have developed. So now more than ever, we need nature. And one of the things that we've recently done is we've developed with Holdfast Bay an A5 guide that you can pick up from libraries and the council chambers, and it's called Down by the Sea. And Down by the Sea, what it has done is it's highlighted 6 of Holdfast Bay's locations, nature locations, where you can go and you can do a range of different things around mindfulness, around bird watching. And how it looks is each location, so Glenelg, for example, there's a bit of history there around Colonel William Light's arrival, and there's also some facts all through it, but also the adventures are based on, where you see the word adventures, are based on well-being. And then this isn't just for kids. In fact, it was developed with the Holdfast Bay community in mind. So these activities are based on mindfulness, are based on friendship, are based on taking action. So various different things that anyone in the community, the Holdfast Bay community, whether you're a resident or visiting, can do. And within these 6 locations, there are also elements of nature and that you can discover, such as, and the volunteers would know this very well, the knobby clubrush and Carpalo the pigface. And if you pick up a physical guide, there's also online, you can also put your own nature observations in here. So we have Minda Dunes. Again, there are some adventures in there which can help you gain a sense of place. You see the singing honeyeater, which is often heard and not seen. The scaevola, which is the fan flower, which one of the many plants, as Mary was talking about, that has seen a return of some of the butterflies. So we see the meadow argus is really starting to return to the dunes, and that is dependent on flowers such as the fan flower. Seacoast to Brighton, we have, yes, the hooded plover in there. And I think one of the most important things that Gita spoke about is hooded plovers aren't that well known, even though they're endangered. And I've spoken to a lot of people where I say hooded plovers, and they say they're those wretched birds that swoop us, and that's actually the masked-winged plover, which is an aggressive bird, but the aggressiveness is because it's protecting its babies. But it's much bigger than a hooded plover. The hooded plover is a delicate little bird that is very, very unknown, except by you guys who know it very well now. Gilbertson Gully, I worked in there for many years. There's those corflute signs that we were speaking about in there. I took that photo only maybe 6 months ago. Golden wattle, New Holland honeyeater, and two other common things that you can encounter. Kingston Park, it's a very special place. It's a very significant place for Kaurna people. It's a very significant place for many of the local community. What I love is when I go down there and those two Norfolk Island pines that you see there, one's a bit stunted, which apparently was because it was struck by lightning. But often you'll see two of these birds, which is the Nanking kestrel. You'll see them flying around, and they flutter right before they dive into the cliff face to catch usually the mice that they're after. But the idea of this guide, as you can see, is it shows people that these areas are more than places to walk through or just to hear about. And when you get to the end of the guide, it talks about things that we can do as a community to live more sustainably, because taking action individually and personally and volunteering, all of these things is exactly what we want our children to see us doing. Because every one of you who have planted or weeded or have contributed in some way to the community, you are mentors of our children. And I think that needs to be celebrated. And I always advocate for people to volunteer. I've volunteered all my life. And I think an event like this on the Zoom platform we're using is really important to connect each other and to realise, because I remember working a lot with the volunteers. You guys often didn't slow down and say, you know what, we're doing a great job. But you are doing an amazing job. And the reason that I really wanted to put work into this particular guide was because of my connection, not only to the natural environment, but when I see the natural environment in Holdfast Bay, I see the work that the volunteers have put in all those years. And I do see the many hours that I used to go in there to, one, water seedlings, or two, get away from the office. So it's been a really wonderful thing to reflect on, both my time at Holdfast Bay, but also how much I value it. And Emma was mentioned around her connection to nature and how important it is to the fact that all the volunteers contributing to something much bigger. But the question I ask is, how can we ask ourselves or others to protect and conserve nature if we don't feel strongly connected to it? And many of you do feel connected to it, but you also have such rich stories to tell people that can help them form a connection. So I encourage you to tell people your stories of the butterflies returning, or the hooded plovers, or something you've planted and something you've seen come to life. Tell them those stories and tell them with the love and the passion that you have. And then we can start changing the way that people feel and think about nature, particularly in their local area. So what I'll just tell you some resources as well, because I think when you start to learn about the plants and the animals of an area, a different narrative starts in your mind. And this narrative is one where you form an acquaintance with certain plants and animals, and it opens up a perspective in your mind where your community is broader. It's not just people, but the community is plants and animals, whether it's plovers or crabs or whatever it might be. One of my favourites is this guy here, is the moon snail. So you may find these little cockle-like shells with holes in them. Well, the moon snail actually drills the holes in these at night time, and it sucks out the contents. So it's a predatory snail, And you'll find these everywhere along the beach. You tell any person that, child or grandparent or any individual, they get really fascinated. They're either grossed out or they just say, oh, I need to find some of these. So it's a really fascinating place to explore, especially when you have a little bit of knowledge. So this is available on our website. It's Coastal Treasures to Discover, specifically along Glenelg to Seacliff. There's another thing, if you have any children or if you yourself want to get involved in more mindful activities, this is a list that's broken up into different habitats along the coast of the SA coastline. But if I'm being super honest, I developed it with my coastline in mind, which is Holdfast Bay. So all of these habitats, sand dunes, sandy shorelines, rocky seashores, are all along the city of Holdfast Bay. So you can actually have a look at this list and think, yes, I do want to find a cuttlebone, because when was the last time I looked at a cuttlebone and looked for any dolphin teeth marks in it? So there's lots of different things you can do. And there's also some online beachcombing identification charts, which again can help build your knowledge of the interesting things you find. There's some great bird ID charts, which are all urban birds, and you'll be surprised how many birds you actually know. You'll probably, I would say quite comfortably, you would know 15 different birds just by looking at this list. And it's a double-page poster. But just to know you know your birds, it makes you hungry to know more and to teach others. Butterflies, there's lots of different butterflies in Holdfast Bay. If you look at the guide, I've put in the southern grass dart, which is currently flittering around all the kangaroo grass. But these are some more that you can start to build your own knowledge and your group's knowledge about the local environment. And finally, because I felt like I was calling a race because I don't want to take too much time, I want to leave you with a thought, because I'm always trying to conceptualize what does it actually mean to take action for your local community? What does it mean to make a difference? And it's never too late. And tomorrow is a new day and change is on the horizon. So whatever it is you're doing in your life now, I encourage you to either volunteer, to tell the stories of your volunteering, and to celebrate your success, because you're doing, every day that you get out there, you're doing bigger and greater things. No matter how big it is, no matter how many plants you plant, you're making an incredible difference. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for the things you may consider doing in the future.